Hello, welcome to MapleWoodian.com podcast. We have on the phone Kurt Kiley, the latest Township Committee candidate. Mr. Kiley, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Joe?
All right, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for putting this together.
Sure. No, it's very interesting. Your appearance in the race has been, I think, first cited by me on Maplewood Online, and then your website, kileyforcommittee.org.
Yep.
How long have you had the website up?
It's been up for probably about 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, as I was getting it organized and putting it together. A little bit in advance of when I sent out notifications to the Patch and to the alternative press.
Now you've been in Maplewood, what, 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years, a little over 2 years. 2 years. We moved here in May of 2011.
And we is you and your wife?
Me and Carol.
And we talked earlier, you were raised in Elizabeth, but have lived around New Jersey most of your life?
Yep, before moving here, I lived in Morristown, and Carol lived in Montclair.
And you are a marketing consultant, you said?
Management
consultant. Tell us about your background in the work world.
Well, I go to companies, or actually companies calling me to help them look at things different. I know that's management speak, but we look at how they're doing things currently, and we look at how they want to change things, how they want to improve things. And then we talk to everybody that's involved in the process and try to find out what's working, what's not working, eliminate what's redundant, and improve what they're doing well. And that's it in a nutshell. There's a lot more that goes on with it beyond that. But it's a very rewarding profession because I get to work with a lot of very interesting people, and we get to accomplish a lot of good things with the business. And it changes, so there's a lot of different projects and tough things to tackle. But I enjoy it a lot. I've been doing it for over 20 years.
Now, obviously, Maplewood already had its primaries. We had two unopposed candidates, Marlon Brownlee and Art Gartlow, both running. And as you know, Maplewood's very much a Democratic town. Whoever wins the Democratic primary usually wins the election. But now you're in the race as an independent. What is your political background, and why did you want to run in this way at this time?
Well, I have never been active politically in anything before.
Mm-hmm.
I started to go. Actually, Carol and I started going to the Township Committee meetings back in March. Just we got settled in with our lives in Maplewood, and we decided, hey, let's see what's going on in town. And after a while, I started to see that there are just from like a management perspective, from what I do day to day, I could see that there were areas that I could really assist the Township Committee. Just process things, I guess. But after a while, I really started getting motivated because I just thought that overall that we could do a lot better with the town. There's a lot of untapped resources, I think, that we could really take advantage of. And Maplewood is really special, but I think that we could take it beyond where we are today.
And in what way do you think? Because obviously the tax situation here, obviously property taxes are through the roof, but that's nothing new. The Township Committee seems like they try to do as much as they can to cut costs, and a lot of it is the school district, as you know. What do you think you could bring that's not being done at this point?
Well, as we all know, the taxes are the biggest concern of everybody.
Right.
When I was going out petitioning to get on the ballot, that was the number one concern of everybody. But that is, like you mentioned, Joe, that the largest part of our taxes comes from the school system, and then a big chunk comes from the county. The township itself controls a very small piece compared to the other two pieces.
Right.
Control of that. So what we need to do is we need to try to rein in where we can, and we can't cut too deep, right? Because then we start leaning into where our services is, where our service level is. Now, what I would like to do different is when we're doing, and with anything, is try to look at everything in a complete perspective. For instance, with the post office redevelopment, we have two areas that we should be looking at. We have the newly acquired women's club area, as well as the post office area, and we should look at areas that, how we can get them to synergize. Let's define how we want to use the women's club and make sure that the post office development complements that. In the post, they both complement each other so that we get the most out of our assets. Because we still own the post office area, we own the women's club area. Let's take a look at it completely. How can we get these two areas to function the best for the village, and also how can we use those two to increase the retail operations in the village?
And you don't think the current committee or Mr. Brownlee would take an approach you would take?
Well, we've been moving through the process. We've had, we were going through the same process with the post office, but the direction didn't change after we purchased the women's club. We didn't take a step back and say, hey, now we have the women's club, let's see what we can do with that. It looks like we're going to be doing that in succession, and we might miss some opportunities that we could have if we looked at them together.
Would you have opposed the purchase of the women's club? I know a lot of people did, and I was also very unsure about it. It just seemed like it kind of came out of nowhere, $1 million, and now we have this site that it's a little unclear what to do with it.
I was very surprised about it, and there was a couple of things that I was thinking about. Is like, one, they bought it because, well, they got the parking that they needed for the post office redevelopment. But then my other thought was, all right, if you didn't have the women's club, where was that parking going to come from?
Right.
That wasn't discussed. But now we own the women's club, so we can't undo what we have done. So let's maximize what we have. We have this great asset. It was originally built to hold up about 700 people. Now, if we put 700 people in there, it's probably going to be a fire hazard.
Right.
But we got it for $1 million, and SOPAC holds like 400. And what did they pay? Like $24 million for that. So we have some great possibilities that we could do with the women's club. And if you listen to the Tom Kearns plan, that's something very exciting that I think would really fit in with what we are in Maplewood, or what I'm learning that we are. As being a resident in Maplewood, and to me, it's something like that's exciting. And I would hate that we would miss the opportunity to put something like that, to fully embrace something like that in the women's club, because we didn't forethink the amount of parking we needed, or circulation issues and things like that, and we just built the Kings at the post office without regarding how we were developing the women's club.
Now, again, we're talking to Kurt Kiley, who's independent candidate for Township Committee. You told me you needed 50 signatures to qualify for the ballot, and you gathered about 90?
Yeah, roughly about 90. I want to make sure that, if there was any challenges to the signatures on the ballot, that there were some remaining ones. I did my best to make sure that, everybody that signed was unaffiliated, and they were registered in the town. I got a couple extra people, and people were very eager to sign my petition to get me on the ballot. So some people were Democrats. They were eager. They saw me coming. They were calling their neighbors, and that made me feel really good about my prospects.
Now, have you filed for the ballot, or what's the deadline for that, or have you done that?
The deadline for filing was the June primary.
I see.
So I filed. I submitted the petition. I got a copy from the Essex County Board of Elections, and they call me up and confirm that I am on the ballot as an independent. And
it would appear that you're the only, Mr. Brownlee, Mr. Gartlaw, will be the three names on the ballot, correct? Or do you know of any other independents who have qualified?
They could have qualified and not announced, but I don't know of any other.
I haven't heard of any as well. But what made you want to do it this way? Why not run in a primary, in the Democratic primary, which gets a lot more attention, and perhaps you could even challenge Mr. Brownlee and win that race?
I guess it was more of a timing. There are two things: timing, and I guess I'm more of a middle ground than a pure Democrat. I think both parties have something to offer, and I can't say that my views are strictly Democratic. They lean more towards libertarian in some regards, but I think there's room for multiple views, and I think that having all three candidates discuss these things in a debate or during the campaign is very valuable to the democratic process in Maplewood. So there's a lot of different opposing views to things.
We would assume
develops things.
Sorry, we would assume they would include you in the debates, and that seems like it would be a very interesting three-way debate for the general election. And also, do you think it helps or hinders you, the sort of unusual election situation we have? We obviously, Tuesday, the primary for Senate, and there'll be a special election for that, and then there'll be the school board election for the first time in Maplewood in November, and obviously the governor's race and the township committee race. Does that help or hinder an independent, or people maybe a little more of a turnout, or more of an interest? I don't know. Or is it just an independent voice is going to be a good option no matter what the situation?
I think an independent voice is going to be a good option. It's hard for me, or I think hard for anybody to get their head around the election calculus of all the different things that are going on in November and everything that's leading up to it. We have the gubernatorial election, and like you say, we also have the primary for the senatorial election. We have the special senatorial election. I mean, will everybody just be too tired out to be going to the general election in November after at that point? Who knows at this point where that could be, where everyone might have campaign fatigue at this point. So.
And is there one issue that you're pointing to? You mentioned some of the Maplewood Village development and taxes. Anything else that you would like to bring up as an issue that maybe isn't brought up or that's very important to you that would bring you out to run?
Well, I can't say that this was the reason that brought me out to run, but I after considering everything and starting to develop a platform, I think that the town should, we have a great master plan, and it has some great goals in it. But we should decide as a community what is our vision for Maplewood. What is the community vision for Maplewood? How do we see Maplewood in 10 years, 20 years? Are we, like Tom Kern says, does Maplewood become a mecca for the arts? And does everybody know that Maplewood is the mecca for the arts? Or are we a mecca for social responsibility? Or what does everyone think the shared vision of Maplewood is? And I think for anything that we do, we should make our decisions around adhering to that shared vision, so that everybody knows. If you don't have a shared vision, then anybody's vision is the vision of the day, right? And we have some great ideas and goals in our master plan for sustainability and diversity in town. But where does everybody see Maplewood in 10 years and 20 years? What would get everybody excited to put Maplewood in that direction?
And are you planning to spend much money on the race, or do you have a budget lined out?
Well, that's difficult. I'm on a shoestring budget.
Yeah, well, that doesn't always hurt. Sometimes that helps, especially in this town. I don't think your opponents were expecting to spend a lot, and I know this may or may not spur them to reorganize their approach. It will be left to be seen.
I still need to spend money to flyers out and other ways to get the information out on my platform and start going door to door. And I thought to build a structure of volunteers to assist me. It is a long road ahead, and there's very little time. But I'm confident that I'll make a good showing. I hope to make a good showing, and I hope that I still contribute something to the whole process.
Okay, I think we're breaking up our phone here, and about time we're going to end this anyway.
Okay.
But thank you, Kurt Kiley, and we'll put your website up with this, Kurt Kiley, at kileyforcommunity.org, independent candidate for Township Committee. We will also be obviously talking to Marlon Brownlee and Art Gartlaw before the summer is out, but wanted to give you a chance to speak up, and we'll talk to you again.
All right, thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you, sir. Be well.
Thank you.
Hello, welcome to MapleWoodian.com podcast. We have on the phone Kurt Kiley, the latest